All right, welcome back, everybody. We're diving deep today
Oh, yeah.
into Pete Hegseth's nomination as Secretary of Defense.
This one's a hot topic.
Yeah, and we've got a ton of stuff to get through. Articles, statements from the Senate, even a briefing document someone sent over.
Sounds like we've got our work cut out for us.
For sure. But, our listeners want to understand what's really going on here, right? Beyond the headlines and the political spin.
Absolutely. Let's cut through the noise and get to the heart of it.
Okay, so first glance, Hegseth seems like he'd be a shoo-in for this job. Combat veteran, Fox News host, always advocating for the military.
You'd think so, right? But this nomination has been anything but straightforward.
Yeah, there's been a ton of pushback, and when you dig into it, you find all these allegations against him.
Oh, yeah, it's a laundry list.
We're talking alcohol abuse, sexual misconduct, even claims of abusive behavior. So is this just political mudslinging, or is there fire behind all this smoke?
That's the million-dollar question, but some of these accusations are pretty specific. Well, his ex-wife, Samantha, reportedly told the FBI that he drinks more often than he doesn't.
Wow.
And then you have his former sister-in-law, Danielle, describing times when he was drinking to the point of passing out.
Yikes. So it's not just one person making these claims.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just drinking. We have Danielle's affidavit where she claims Hegseth was abusive towards Samantha.
Seriously?
To the point where Samantha actually had a safe word with her friends if she felt threatened.
A safe word,
Yeah.
like a code word.
Yeah, something she could use to signal that she needed help.
That's pretty disturbing.
It is. It suggests a level of fear and potential danger that's hard to ignore.
So this is starting to feel less like political maneuvering and more like a pattern of concerning behavior.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Then there's that alleged sexual assault at a Republican conference. Hegseth says it was consensual, but even so.
It raises questions about his judgment.
For sure.
Yeah.
Especially if he's going to be leading a military that's supposed to be built on respect and integrity.
It makes you wonder if those values apply to everyone or just those lower down the chain of command.
Right. And we haven't even touched on the claims of financial mismanagement, although the sources are a bit vague on the specifics there.
True, there's not a lot of detail available yet.
Okay, so we've got this mountain of accusations. How has Hegseth responded to all of this?
He's denied everything, calling it a coordinated smear campaign.
Of course.
And he's even promised to abstain from alcohol if he gets confirmed.
Interesting.
It's a bold move, but does it really address the underlying concerns?
It feels almost like a distraction, right?
Well,
Instead of directly refuting the accusations, he's making promises about future behavior?
yeah, it makes you wonder what he's trying to deflect attention from.
Okay, so what about the Senate? They're the ones who have to decide whether to confirm him. Are they buying his denials?
Well, it's pretty much split right down the middle.
As expected.
Democrats are uniformly opposed.
No surprise there.
Schumer even called him erratic.
Ouch. That's got a sting.
But what's interesting is that some Republicans are breaking ranks and opposing him too.
Really? Like who?
Murkowski and Collins have both come out publicly against him.
Wow, that's significant.
It shows that there are cracks in the Republican support.
And why are they opposing him?
Murkowski is worried about the message it sends, especially to women in the military.
Good point.
And Collins isn't convinced by Hegseth's backtracking on his past views about women in combat roles.
Actions speak louder than words, right?
Exactly.
So we've got this intense political battle playing out. But I think you were saying earlier that this nomination has implications that go beyond just politics.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like what? Why should the average person care about who the Secretary of Defense is?
Well, for one thing, it could have a huge impact on military culture.
How so?
Think about it. The military prides itself on discipline, integrity, respect. If someone with these kinds of allegations over their head takes charge, what does that say about those values?
Yeah, it kind of undermines the whole thing, doesn't it?
Exactly. It sets a dangerous precedent.
And then there's the question of public trust. We're trusting the Department of Defense to make life or death decisions, to keep us safe.
Right, their decisions have huge consequences.
If we can't trust the person at the top, that's a problem.
It erodes public confidence in the entire system.
And it doesn't stop there. What about our allies?
Oh, this could definitely have ripple effects internationally.
How so?
Our allies need to be able to trust our leadership.
Of course.
If they see Hegseth as compromised, it could weaken those alliances.
And that makes us all less safe.
Exactly. It makes it harder to address shared threats.
Okay, so we've got these serious allegations, this political drama, and potential fallout for both the military and our standing in the world. But there's one more piece of this puzzle that I want to take a closer look at.
Oh, what's that?
The FBI investigation itself. There seems to be something unusual going on there.
You're right. It's a bit strange.
What's with all the back and forth between the FBI and the Senate Armed Services Committee? You don't usually see this many extra briefings for a defense secretary nominee.
It's definitely raising eyebrows.
From what I've gathered, it seems like the initial investigation might have been, well, rushed.
Or incomplete, maybe?
Senator Reid, the ranking Democrat on the committee, said he was concerned that key witnesses weren't even contacted initially.
Including Samantha Hegseth.
Right. And her statement about Hegseth's drinking only came out in a supplemental review, not the original report.
That's suspicious.
It makes you wonder if someone was trying to downplay or even cover up certain aspects of Hegseth's past.
Yeah, it casts a shadow over the whole process.
So it's not just the allegations themselves that are troubling, it's the way the investigation was handled.
It raises serious questions about the integrity of the confirmation process itself.
Exactly. And if there are concerns about the FBI's initial investigation, what else might be lurking beneath the surface?
Good question.
What else haven't we uncovered yet?
Well, that's what we're here to find out, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we need your help, listeners. We've laid out the information we have, but we want to hear your thoughts.
What stands out to you?
What are your biggest takeaways so far?
Because this isn't just a story about politics, it's a story about leadership.
And accountability.
And the values we expect from those in positions of power.
And ultimately, it's a story that each of us has a role in shaping.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Like, what are we really looking for in our leaders?
I know, right? Is it just about their experience and their policies? Or does character matter too?
That's the age-old question.
I mean, we've had presidents with flaws. Everyone knows that.
Sure, nobody's perfect.
But this is the Department of Defense we're talking about.
It's not just politics, yeah.
This is about the person who could be sending our sons and daughters into war.
It's a huge responsibility.
So the Senate Armed Services Committee, they have a pretty big job here.
They do.
They're not just rubber stamping a politician. They're supposed to be vetting the person who will lead our military.
Exactly. It's about more than just a resume.
They're digging into his past, his character, trying to figure out if he's really fit for this job.
It should be a rigorous process.
But that's what's so concerning about these issues with the FBI investigation.
Right, it's not a good look.
Key witnesses not being contacted, important information missing from the initial report.
It makes you wonder if they were trying to sweep something under the rug.
And if that's the case, what else are we missing? What else don't we know?
It's unsettling, for sure.
And we haven't even talked about the impact all of this could have on the military itself.
It's a big concern.
We've mentioned morale, but what about recruitment and retention? Will people still want to serve if they see this happening?
It's a valid question.
Especially for women, given Hegseth's past statements about women in combat.
Oh yeah, if he's confirmed, it could send a really discouraging message.
Like their contributions aren't valued.
Or that the military is still stuck in the past.
And if we can't attract and retain the best people, that weakens our military.
It makes us less safe, basically.
And what about our allies? How will they react if Hegseth is confirmed?
I think they'll be watching this very closely.
They have to. It affects them too.
Trust is so important in international relations.
If our allies don't trust our leadership, that damages those relationships.
It could make it harder to cooperate on shared threats.
Okay, so let's switch gears for a second and talk about the vote itself.
It's coming down to the wire.
The Senate is supposed to make a decision tomorrow, and it's going to be close.
Could go either way.
So, walk me through the possible outcomes. What happens if Hegseth is confirmed?
Well, it would be a big win for President Trump.
Obviously.
It would show that he can push through a controversial nominee, even with all this opposition.
But it would also further divide the country, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. It would make people even more distrustful of the government.
And what about internationally? How would other countries see it?
I think our allies will be worried.
Why?
They'd be questioning our judgment, wondering why we would choose someone with so much baggage.
And our adversaries, they'd probably see it as a weakness, wouldn't they?
I'm sure they'd try to exploit it somehow.
Imagine a foreign intelligence agency trying to blackmail Hegseth with these allegations.
Oh, I'm sure they'd try something like that.
It's not a good situation to be in.
Not at all.
Okay, so that's if he's confirmed. What if he's rejected?
That would be a huge blow to President Trump.
For sure.
It would show that he's not as powerful as he thinks he is.
And it would embolden his opponents, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. They'd be even more determined to block any future nominees.
It could lead to a total stalemate.
Which wouldn't be good for anyone.
We need a Secretary of Defense. We can't just leave that position empty.
It would create a lot of uncertainty and instability.
So it seems like we're in a tough spot no matter what happens.
It does seem that way.
Either we get a potentially compromised and divisive leader in Hegseth, or we face this prolonged political battle in a vacant position at the Pentagon.
It's a real dilemma.
So where do we go from here? What are the lessons we can learn from this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that we need to fix our political system.
It's clearly broken.
We need to find a way to work together, to have civil discussions, to put the country first.
That sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do that?
It's going to take a lot of effort from everyone.
And it's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's a long-term process.
But it's something we have to work towards.
For sure.
Another thing this whole situation has highlighted is the importance of character in leadership.
Absolutely. We need leaders we can trust.
People who are not only competent, but also ethical.
Leaders who will put the interests of the country ahead of their own.
It's not just about experience and policy positions.
It's about who they are as people.
And it's up to us as citizens to hold our leaders accountable.
We can't just sit back and let them do whatever they want.
We need to be engaged, we need to speak up.
And we need to demand better.
Because the future of our country depends on it.
It really does.
Well, folks, it's been a long wait.
A real nail-biter.
But the votes are in.
The Senate has made their decision.
And Pete Hegseth has been confirmed as Secretary of Defense.
By the narrowest of margins.
51-49, with Vice President Vance casting the deciding vote.
It's a close one.
It really shows just how divided we are as a country.
Deeply divided.
So Hegseth's got the job.
He's officially in charge of the Pentagon now.
What's next? What are his first priorities likely to be?
Well, I think the first thing he needs to do is try to mend some fences.
There are a lot of fences that need mending.
He needs to reach out to the people who opposed him, both within the military and in Congress.
Try to build some bridges.
Exactly. He needs to show that he's willing to listen, to compromise.
And that he understands the gravity of the concerns that have been raised.
If he can do that, he might be able to start to rebuild some of the trust that's been lost.
But it's going to be an uphill battle.
It will be.
Okay, so assuming he can get past the political drama, what about his actual policies?
Right. What's he going to do?
He's talked a lot about modernizing the military, focusing on competition with China and Russia.
That seems to be his top priority.
More spending on defense, investing in new technologies.
Like hypersonic weapons, artificial intelligence.
Strengthening our military presence around the world.
He wants to make sure America stays ahead of the curve.
But can he actually get all of that done?
That's the question, isn't it? He's facing a lot of opposition.
In a divided Congress.
It's going to be tough to get the resources he needs.
And to build consensus for his agenda.
It'll be interesting to see how he navigates all of that.
Well, one thing's for sure.
What's that?
We're going to be watching closely.
Every move he makes will be scrutinized.
And we'll be here to break it all down for you.
As always.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
It's been quite a ride.
And remember, stay curious, stay informed, and keep diving deep.
We'll see you next time.